Hello, Flosstube. Welcome back to Stitch and Crime. And yes, it is not the first Sunday of the month, but Chad Daybell started on April 1st. And I was also chasing down some information on Anh Duy Pham, who currently is up for 9 charges of attempted murder. But we'll save the true crime to the end. Stitching first, because after all, I'm just a girl who loves true crime and stitch and cross stitch. So I found the shirt on Etsy. And I figured it fit. So finishes. We're going to give you stats for March, even though we're halfway through April. But everything's going to be from March because that's when I wrote down everything. So finishes. Keeping on track. My Shepherd's Bush March is finished. It is done on the recommended water lily, which I got at Shepherd's Bush. And there is our leprechaun with his pot of gold, which is not exactly on straight, but there he is. And then I've already finished April because I started my Shepherd's Bush piece on the very first day of the month, and I work on it exclusively until it's finished. So here we have our April chicks. April flowers need spring showers. So here is April, complete with their umbrella. The umbrella is a button available at Shepherd's Bush. I actually had another finish in March. I finished Lady Scarlet's Christmas. There's Lady Scarlet there on top of the pink stocking. So there is just Nan's Lady Scarlet's Christmas. And it's kind of a pearl gray linen. I'd say it's probably either a 28 or a 32. It looks beige actually it looks more like flax when I hold it up, but that is a pearl gray. So those were my finishes. So during March, I did work on 12 whips. Obviously March and Lady Scarlet's. I also worked on Stitch Every Day. Didn't get much further, but there we are. I put some time in on the obligation piece. So here's the West Point sampler. We are actually starting to get some of the buildings in down at the bottom. And we all have the bottom square now. As long as I put in 1,000 stitches a month on it, I will have it finished in time for my sister's birthday. And then the Aussie road trip, driving through Australia with the Whip Warriors. They needed a cartoon piece, or else I had to do double stitches. So I pulled out my Princesses du Mal. So this is my Princesses du Mal. It is done on 18 count Aida. This is my first attempt at iodine. So I used the Rit powdered dye. This is blue, purple, and gray. So this is my first attempt at iodine and my Princesses du Mal. You'll notice I'm starting to do some back stitching on Ursula. So, and Cruella has eyes. And that is now one of my 24 and 24 whips. I only got 570 stitches in on Secret Carousel. But look, I'm stitching in colors other than 939, and we still have dog hair on it. So there are colors other than 939 on the canvas now. I did get my 500 stitches in on Kingdom of Books. And we'll put 500 stitches in it in April too. I did not finish my Whip Go pieces, but I did get 225 stitches 275 stitches put into Summer Carousel Horse, and I got 415 stitches put into, actually in March I only got 89, but in April I've added 415. So I worked on Fortunate Traveler, so we have some stitches in Fortunate Traveler, and those are on frames down in my studio. I don't take them off the frames because it's just kind of a pain. So I will put pictures at the end. So you'll have to, if you don't want to listen to the true crime side, sorry, you're just going to have to speed through that then to get the picture, the slideshow at the end. And then I put some time in on Storied Steeds. Still need to do the mane on the Kelpie, but Hippocampus, I've gotten quite a bit done there. In fact, I finished one of the colors. I think that's finished all of the stitches in 3808. And the big one, all of the stitches have been put in to Noah's sub. All I need to do now is eyes. We are putting eyeballs into everything. I am hoping you guys can see that because I cannot see through this. I'm hoping that can you see the whole thing? Am I getting that in frame? Okay. Yes, eyeballs are supposed to be French knots. No, I bought beads. So we're putting beads on to put onto people's eyes. And if you'll notice, there are no eyeballs below water yet. So for the next weekend, I will be putting eyeballs on things. And I had a start and finish, which I can't show you right now because it is up at Stitchery Express. With Craft Center closing in February, Stitchery Express has become my new LNS. It is an hour away from me, but there are stitch-ins every Saturday. So when I have a free Saturday, I head up to Layton. It has a T in it. I head up to Layton and I sit in the stitching parlor and I work on pieces. And I finished all of those 3808 stitches. I finished that up last weekend. And Pure Love is a Cricklewood Crossing nativity that I stitched for Stitchery Express. It's going to be a shop model up there. And I will put a picture of it at the end as well, because I do have a picture of it for you. So, stats, because I know some of you were waiting for those. I only stitched 8,473 stitches in March. That's an average of 273 per day. My median was 230. My max day was 820. And my minimum day was 37. I have already beaten that maximum for April. So, had I filmed on the first Sunday of the month, I would have told you that my April plans for semi-sane stitchers is Clue. I'm doing it the 100 stitches per dice roll. I am still on my first board. Yes, I know it's past the 15th, but I'm still on my first board. I've narrowed it down to it is Colonel Mustard. I just don't know what weapon or what room. And I've eliminated the rooms that are in between. So it's like 1,200 stitches to get from room to room now, which was probably not the smartest way to eliminate the rooms, but that's what we're going. So Whip Go numbers for April. I pulled Frightmare House and Storied Steeds. I have already stitched my 1,000 stitches on Frightmare House, but we'll talk about that in my May video. I am working on my 1,000 on Storied Steeds, but I'm not there yet. I will buckle down on Storied Steeds as soon as I get all the eyeballs in it on Noah's sub. I am so close, and the completion anxiety is really hitting hard, so I know I have got to concentrate on doing eyeballs and just work on eyeballs. So we will be working on eyeballs. So I'm also working on Lion and Lamb in Whip Warriors. I have already completed so with Whip Warriors, with Lion and Lamb, you're supposed to start with the full coverage whip that you have the fewest stitches left to complete. That was Noah's sub, and I will have that. You're supposed to do 1,000 stitches towards your full coverage whips in order. So Noah's sub was the one that I had the fewest stitches remaining on. And then next is Kingdom of Books. So I'll put 1,000 stitches into Kingdom of Books, and then 1,000 stitches into Secret Carousel. So, plus I still owe Summer Carousel Horse. I owe 725 stitches for Whip Go to Summer Carousel Horse. And starting the month I owed 911, but I've completed 415. So I am under 500 stitches left on Fortunate Traveler. And I figure if I do a little bit on stretch at the bottom and add a couple more letters in, I should have my 1,000 stitches on Fortunate Traveler. So Lion and Lamb, the order I'm going in is Noah's sub, Kingdom of Books, and Secret Carousel. And then I'm still doing the Aussie road trip. And there was one stop, Derwent Bridge, that if it was 650 stitches, unless you worked on your smallest whip. Well, I had already put 710 stitches into Noah's sub before I realized that had I worked on Stitch Every Day or on Diamond Bouquet, I would have only had to do 325 instead of 650. But hey, I had already finished 710. So now I am still stitching on my didgeridoo of 500 stitches that I got when I arrived in Derwent. Because when you arrive in each city, you have to go souvenir shopping. And when you go souvenir shopping, they roll a dice, they tell you what your souvenir is, and you have to stitch this number of stitches to buy your souvenir. And the most expensive one is a didgeridoo at 500 stitches. So guess what I got when I landed in Derwent? Okay. Haul. I don't even remember what is in the haul pile. But I did get 500 alphabets in cross stitch because I have kind of been itching to make my own sampler, and that will be happening. And there was a young lady who came around to my house earlier this month. Well, actually, she came in March, and she was trying to raise money to buy something fun for herself. So she was selling stickers, including a sticker that she made. It's just ribbon. She made a ribbon rose. It's on netting. And I thought that was kind of cool. And it was only $2 for the stickers. And I'm sure I will find some place to put them. But it was kind of cool that here she was motivated to go out and sell stuff, to buy things. So at EGA, we're talking haul, I got this. This is a Gayanne Rogers eyelet heart. There are the instructions. There's the picture. I'm pretty sure I have canvas over there somewhere. Told you I've been hanging out at Stitchery Express. Does that not look just cool? Stitchery Express carries fabric flair. And when, I wasn't quite sure how I felt about painted fabrics, which is kind of what fabric flair is. It's designs printed on fabric. And I wasn't quite sure how I felt about it until I did that True Love, which was my first one on fabric flair. And oh my gosh, it was so easy to work on. It's just the texture of the fabric just made it really easy, really fun. And so the next time I went up, it's like, I saw this and it's like, oh my gosh, that is a Nora Corbett witch. Wouldn't that be perfect to put a witch on? Although, look at those mushrooms. You could put one of the Nora Corbett mushrooms on there too. But I was thinking that maybe Minerva. Would Minerva look good on that? Let me know, what would you put on that? That is just, to me, that's just so cool. It's like it's books in a forest. It's a staircase of books. What would you put on there? I could do a Joan Elliott, but I just got thinking this looked like a Nora Corbett witch. So I am going to try and figure out what witch. But if you would like to leave me a comment down below and tell me what witch you would like me to put on it, I will definitely consider it. Okay, I am a member of the American Needlepoint Guild. And this is my January-February magazine, which arrived in March. And we're opening it, so there's the crinkle noise for everybody. There is the cover picture. Isn't that a cool canvas? That's the back. Guild News. The stitching project is the Red Leaf Birdhouse. Articles, what is your usual stitching equipment and how do you carry it? Ladybugs with white flowers. And it's got stitch instructions. Timeless Treasures from the Archives. Talks about things that people were looking for. Appraising our art. How do we determine value? Okay, there's the Red Leaf Birdhouse. That's the project. Won't show the pattern, but there are the supplies. Seminar will be in Kansas City, Missouri, August 30th through September 6th. I have other things going on that weekend, so I will not be going to seminar this year. Changes to the bylaws, elections. Okay, there's that. I have no idea why I have a piece of cardstock. Actually, I'll put it down there. Okay, the greenhouse arrived from my Fabulous Houses. I figured, okay, this year I'm doing the Shepherd's Bush Year in Stitches. I figure these are going to be next year's. These are going to be my next year's salve. I don't know how I'm doing them. Rose Heart Bunny. I got Rose Heart Bunny. My ENG magazine, which I haven't looked at. We can look at it together in a little bit. Okay, market haul. Let's face it, Nashville Market. I got dragon fruit. I got wisteria. I got blooming crocus. Jakey Brown. Blushing Beauty. Oh, hey, that's probably what the white thread was. That's what the white stock was for, right? There's Blushing Beauty. We'll go back for you. Jakey Brown. Doesn't really, it looks more like pink than brown. Blooming Crocus. That really does look kind of like crocuses. Wisteria. It looks more white here, but it is definitely a purple. Dragon Fruit, which is kind of pretty. Goldenrod. I was scratching my nose, not picking it. So there's Goldenrod. Already talked about Blooming Crocus. This was a limited edition. And now I've forgotten what the name was. Yeah, that's a limited edition, but I forgot what the name was. However, this limited edition is called Worm Dirt. And that is definitely Worm Dirt. And this limited edition is called Applewood. More Worm Dirt. Grasshopper. And, oh my gosh, guys. Distressed Denim. Distressed Denim. Does that not look like ripped jeans? Let me separate it a little more. Does that not look like ripped jeans to you? That is distressed denim. Distressed denim is only available at Stitchery Express, by the way. Okay. Log Cabin Christmas. So it is a 9-part series that is going to be released by Little House Needleworks. I have signed up for auto, and I have the first one, which is Squirrel's Log Cabin Squirrel. And I believe the second one is either Fox or Rabbit. But the second one should be hitting any day now. I got Little House Needleworks Blessed is the Life. That one just, I am usually not a primitive stitcher. Let's face it, I am more a Mirabilia, Teresa Wentzler, Joan Elliott type of girl. Have a ton of Dragon Dreams that I still need to stitch. Y'all know I do just Nan. But I don't know, Little House and Cottage Garden have just been really speaking to me lately. Sea Witch. Portrait of Veronica. I am really hoping that this is not a duplicate. But it just hit me this time. But I needed her. Raven of the Bewitching Pixies. Now she could go on it. I don't know. I don't think she goes on the stairway. I think she's not big enough. The Moss Collector. She never really jumped out at me until this last little while. And the last time I was up at Stitchery Express, she just really jumped out at me. Sweet Pea. Sweet Pea has been on my wish list for a while. And with the price of Nora Corbett and Mirabilias going up, I figured I wanted to get them before they did. Snapdragon. Another one that's been on my wish list for a while. I have no idea what I'm going to stitch her on, but... And then I got the last of the Christmas ones I was missing. So I had the bear and the owl. I was missing the winter nest. And oh, I got the fabric to do them on. Okay, so check out this fabric. Holiday in the Woods. So notice there are 4 different fabrics. So we'll probably put, I don't know, we'll do one each of the Holiday in the Woods on each one. We'll do one on each. So I don't know, which one do you think would look, the nest would look good on? Which square would you put the nest on? This is why I have things kitted up for 10 years. Honestly. Miss Forest Mushroom, she would look good on the Book of Stairs, but they've already stitched her as a model on that up there. So I'm thinking I will probably find something to put her on. Miss Spider. She just jumped out at me last time. And then a lot of you have been stitching Shanna and Christine. And this one just kind of jumped out at me too. So I used to have a quilt fabric from Alexander that was the Pinup Witches. And she just reminds me of that Alexander fabric Pinup Witch. And I know I still have some of that Alexander fabric around. So I am thinking if I stitch her up, I could make her into a cushion or a pillow, however you want to say it, using that Alexander Witch, Pinup Witch fabric. Okay. So I actually got this to stitch that Bewitched on. Think she'll just look good hanging out in that moon. Told you, I have become obsessed with fabric flare. Okay, so I got those Whispered by the Winds patterns last time. How about this for Witch's Gate? Is that just the coolest? That Misty Forest. I got smart this time, guys, and I actually started putting the name of what pattern I was that I bought for, because I bought that one fabric last time. I was like, oh, I know I bought this for something, but I, for the life of me, cannot remember what it was. So this, I have stapled a couple of these together saying these are for Whispered in the Wind. So I got a bunch of Whispered in the Wind patterns. Here's a graveyard. I was thinking that might be cool for the tune. Here's the graveyard again. Put one of the gates on that. And this was just a fun one. I have enough Halloween patterns that I am sure I will find something. I could do an autumn lane on this, or I could do one of my Whispered on the Winds. I will find something fun to put on that. I could even put a Mirabilia Witch on it. Okay, and I have this sitting here and I don't remember now why. I think I won this somewhere. But I kind of really like those flowers. I will probably change this just because I really am not a sampler person. But I'll find something to say. Okay. And then today, my new needlepoint magazine came. Told you I belong to both ANG and AGA. Why did I get these? Guys, that came from Silver Needle. Was this one of the things in my grab bags? I think this may have come in one of the grab bags. And as the charm pack with it. Cool. Okay. This is the one that came today. Kind of an oriental feel with the pheasants. And our pretty lady on the back. The winter geese here are the stitching project in this magazine. And we have an article on printed versus painted canvases. And how your stitch choice makes a difference. Exact same canvas, different stitches chosen. Okay. It shows you what the canvas looked like initially. Notes on color value. Tell you, sometimes the articles in the magazines are really good. I never thought of doing that for the stockings, so that you can change the name on the stocking if you need to. You just tie it on. There's the winter geese, the project. And then here's an alternative with different stitches. Hey, pattern's just a place to start. Okay, EGA magazine. Needle Arts comes from EGA. Features and projects. The focus designer is Nancy Spies. The Eyes Have It for Stitching Accuracy, an article by an optometrist. Page 17, the Pelican Chemise. Pelican Chemise. Pattern on how to make it. What is your most memorable chapter meeting? And then information how to enter the Golden Needle Awards. Here's the project Up, Up, and Away. It's just a little embroidered balloon. I admit I do mainly cross stitch, but I do embroidery too. A visit to the Hardanger Folk Museum. So, okay. Oh, at the EGA meeting, we were making buttons. That's as far as I got on mine. But then I got the book on how to make buttons. So this one intrigues me, and they have the pattern for that. This is kind of what I'm working on right now. Okay, there were some freebies that I got. When I was, that one. That's the Teresa Kogut freebie from the Teresa Kogut freebie from Nashville. There's another alphabet. And Live in Full Bloom by Tiny Modernist. I got that. And then Sweet Wing Studios, No Rain, No Flowers. Okay. That takes care of the stitching. So, true crime. We talked about Maurice Raffoul last time and how he was terrorizing his neighbors and how his father wrote a letter to the court saying that he needed to be treated by this weird machine that supposedly does biofeedback and is alternative medicine out of Utah, which is the scam capital. So, yeah, we have a lot of people that fall for frauds. In fact, I had a friend who her husband just lost $6,000 in a scam. In fact, let me talk about this scam first, and then we'll get into the true crime I've prepared. So he got a letter saying that the DEA had a warrant for his arrest for fentanyl sales. This man wouldn't know where to buy fentanyl, let alone be distributing it. Well, they told him that they were watching him and this, that, and the other, and they were going to send people over to take him out in cuffs. And he was scared because he thought he was going to lose his job. So he did what they said and took all the money out of his checking account and bought Bitcoin with it. Okay, first off, the DEA does not have you send money to them. Okay? Second, anybody says buy Bitcoin, it's a scam. Don't do it. Okay? Don't buy gift cards. Don't buy Bitcoin. It's a scam. But they also wanted him to go get a home equity line and send them $200,000 in Bitcoin. And he finally went to a public place and told his wife what was going on. And she's like, we're going straight to the police because this is a scam. So they went straight to the police, who did not arrest him, surprise, surprise, because he wasn't on anybody's radar for fentanyl sales, unlike Corey Richards. But they lost $6,000. And because he emptied all the money out of the bank and they had payments that were coming due, they racked up a whole lot of bank fees too. So anybody who tells you they have an arrest warrant for you, call your local police, because it's probably a scam. Anybody who says buy Bitcoin and send it to us is a scam. Anybody who says go get me Walmart gift cards is a scam, because let me tell you, the IRS doesn't want Walmart gift cards. Okay, there's your public service announcement. So, Maurice Raffoul, last time we left him, he was in the Salt Lake County jail. And his dad was writing letters to the judge saying, Maurice his health was going to deteriorate. He's going to get worse unless you buy him this expensive machine that he has at home, or let him take it to the jail where he can use it. Okay, first off, that machine has electronic parts that are not allowed in the Utah State Prison, and they're probably not allowed in the county jail either. But even though the neighbors have a restraining order against Maurice because of all the threats that he's given to them, Maurice decided the best thing to do from jail was to send a threatening letter to the next door neighbor of the people that have a restraining order against him, threatening them, if they didn't go talk to the people with the restraining order, to have the restraining order dropped. Yeah, not the brightest cracker in the box. This man is obviously not playing with a full deck. But hopefully he will get the mental health care that he needs in the county jail. And that is not all. Because some of the Maurice Raffoul stuff started making national headlines, or at least made it back to Louisiana, where the family came from, several women who wanted to press assault charges but were talked out of it by Maurice's dad, or I should say threatened out of it by Maurice's dad, have come forward, and the police in Louisiana may want Maurice when he's done in Utah. Because apparently his dad's last letter to the court that said, let us out and we'll leave the state immediately. Guess what they did from Louisiana? They let Maurice out of jail. He went straight home. They moved straight out of Louisiana to Utah, where he's doing his same old crap. You know what? This man is obviously disturbed. Frankly, reading his father's letters, I think the apple didn't fall far from the tree. But we'll see what happens when he finally gets his day in court, because the judge did not grant bail given everything that he's done. So that is what's going on with Maurice Raffoul. Now, one of the things that caused me to record a little later this month was first week of April, we had a breaking case where they arrested a man for 6 first-degree felonies for hit-and-run charges. 26-year-old Anh Duy Pham is accused of hitting 6 different women with his vehicle in Salt Lake County. Now, when I first started writing this down, he was also being looked at in Summit County, which is up where Corey Richens is. It's just east of Salt Lake County, but it's the county that Corey Richens has been arrested in. He was being looked at for possibly 3 other hit and runs with female victims in Summit County. Well, as of last night, Anh Duy Pham has been charged with 9 felonies, including 1 attempted murder. This is a 26-year-old young man who thinks it's his job to go around hitting women with his car. In one case, the women were like, the woman was like, yeah, he propositioned me. I told him I'm not that kind of girl. He swung around the block and tried to run me over. So the way they caught Anh Duy Pham is somebody's door cam in the avenues. The avenues are kind of a posh area of Salt Lake. It's also kind of an older area, smaller houses. But somebody caught him and his vehicle hitting a woman and knocking her into some garbage cans. Luckily, he didn't do too much damage to the woman, but she was sent to the hospital in critical condition. Older woman. They didn't say what her injuries were, but they just said that he has been arrested. Salt Lake County has him for 4 third-degree felonies, 2 Class A misdemeanors, and then Summit County has added 3 more third-degree felony charges to him. So we'll see how that goes. Guys, I'm still learning this true crime thing and how it works, but I'm going to be following his case and see when he's having his arraignment. Speaking of arraignments, May 13th, Corey Richens. May 13th and May 15th. 13th is her county court hearing, and the 15th is her federal court hearing. Because Corey dear has had 11 new charges added to her. She has had attempted murder. You know, she's already in jail for the murder of her husband. She has now been charged with attempted murder for feeding him a sandwich on Valentine's Day that was laced with something, but he took his son's EpiPen and was able to counteract whatever it was she gave him with the EpiPen. So he survived that one, which is why we now have the text messages from the people that are testifying against her, saying after that attempt, she said, I need stronger stuff. And apparently she got stronger stuff, because you'll remember the autopsy said that he had more than 20 times the lethal dose in his system. She has also been charged with mortgage and insurance fraud and forgery. The forgery charges stem from getting a life insurance policy on Eric with herself as the beneficiary, and he had no clue about the policy. She forged his name on everything. She also forged documents where he had a business life insurance policy that basically he and his business partner, you know, it's a common business practice when you have partners that run a business. I mean, my dad did this back in the 80s. But each partner gets a life insurance policy with the beneficiary of the other partner of the business. This is a standard business practice. Well, Corey tried to change it from the beneficiary, from the business partner, to herself. So we got a forgery and insurance fraud charge there. Just the preliminary wording on the mortgage and insurance fraud, on the mortgage fraud. So what she was doing on the mortgage fraud was she was saying that she had all this money in the bank, and then she was giving bank statements to the bank, to the mortgage lender. They were Photoshops. She was taking Eric's business statements and her personal the header from her personal account, and she was mixing and matching and basically doing a Photoshop job. And the mortgage company caught on pretty quickly, because she's saying all this stuff, and they're like, Yeah, but your credit report doesn't match what you're telling us. She thought they weren't going to pull a credit report? Anyway, that's what's going on with Corey. We'll see what happens on May 13th and May 15th. Even if she doesn't go down for killing Eric, she's going to spend some time in jail. Oh, by the way, she's already been convicted of the assault of Eric's sister. She actually pled guilty to that one. So she'll do some time for that one. I don't remember what the sentencing is on that. The other thing with Corey Richins is, remember how she is the woman who wrote the book on grief after her husband died? So Utah has a son of Sam law, which basically says that inmates are not allowed to profit from their crimes. So Corey Richins' grief book, yeah, that falls under the son of Sam laws if she is convicted. So there is a pretty sticky situation here if she earned a lot of money from those books. We'll see what happens on that one. Daybell trial. Today, it was all about follow the money. Talking about how Lori was buying plane tickets for Chad to come down and making up conferences for him to speak at. He wasn't speaking at any conference. She was sending letters up that he could show to Tammy saying, hey, I've got to go to this conference. I might be able to sell some books. There was no conference. There was no place for him to speak. It was just Lori buying him plane tickets. And who knows where they were. I'm sure the James and Elena book will tell us all about it. Because we all want to hear about loin fire. Do yourself a favor. Do not read those notes. You can't unsee it. Seriously, you can't unsee it. The defense attorney. So Chad Daybell's defense attorney served 120 days in jail for assault. It was pled down to assault during the trial. He took a plea deal during the trial. He was accused of detaining and assaulting a woman on his boardroom table. He claimed that she was offering for sale. And she says, no, I went for legal advice and he attacked me. So apparently her story was going to be more believable to the jury because in the middle of the trial, he took a plea deal. So Chad's lawyer is on probation after serving 120 days in jail. So just something to go with. Just saying. He did try to remove himself from the case, but the judge is like, no. You took all his money. He's indigent because you took all his money. You own his house. Sorry. But Pryor is doing, Pryor's doing some interesting lawyering. And sometimes I think what he's doing is designed to get Chad a new trial through the appeals process, saying that he had ineffective counsel because he's bringing up all sorts of stuff that has nothing to do with what the witnesses have testified on. And the judge has said that he can't that, you know, using the strategy of this was a witch hunt. The previous prosecutor, Rob Wood, had it out for Chad. They're not going to let Rob Wood testify. Rob Wood is not part of the trial. Yeah, no, can't use that strategy. So Pryor's been attacking all the witnesses, but he's been doing it in such a way that it kind of is, I worry that it's going to make the jury think, yeah, this guy's guilty for sure, or else his attorney wouldn't be, you know, they haven't really tied Chad into a lot of the stuff yet. And the attorney's bringing up stuff that wasn't in the testimony to try and attack credibility. And it's like, okay, the jurors don't know who Melanie Gibb is. The jurors don't know who Joe Ryan is. By the way, the judge said that he can't bring up Joe Ryan anymore because Joe Ryan's death was ruled of natural causes. So even though everybody's pretty sure that Alex gave him whatever he used to off himself with, that can't be brought up. And today they were following the money, and one of the things they brought up was the fact that Alex bought a lot of guns. Alex got a loan for $20,000, claiming it was for medical expenses, and then spent half of it on firearms. And Chad's attorney was like, well, could he have purchased those illegally? Was there anything in his past that made it impossible for him to buy guns? And the attorney, the witness is like, no, these were all legally purchased. Yes, he had been convicted of things in his past, but those were no longer on his record. He had nothing that prevented him from buying guns. And then, you know, even though he's been told he can't bring the Joe Ryan thing in because Alex went to jail for assaulting Joe Ryan. So even though he's been told you can't bring up Joe Ryan, he's trying to get this witness to say, well, Alex attacked Joe Ryan, because then it would open the door. And the witness is all, yeah, I understand Alex had some trouble in his past, but it had all been cleared up. Nope, don't know what it was. Just know it had been cleared up. His record had been expunged. So we'll see where it goes from here. I mean, Lori's been convicted of killing the kids. They said Chad's kids are going to testify. But it's really interesting because the timeline is, I think, going to be really important in this case. The timeline is what's going to matter, because the police are searching the grounds. They're searching the pet cemetery. They're searching the fire pit. Before anybody told Chad that they'd found anything, he takes off. You know, he sees them digging in an area. He sees all of a sudden everybody go swarming over to that area, and he takes off. If you didn't know what was in that area already, why'd you take off? And his attorney's like, well, he had an appointment with his attorney. How do you know he took off? Did anybody tell him? And the attorney made such a big deal of the fact that nobody told Chad they found the body. Nobody told Chad they found JJ until after they stopped him for running away at a high rate of speed. But knowing that they were digging in the yard, and knowing that they were looking at the pet cemetery, knowing that they were looking in the fire pit, that morning he did a bunch of banking transfers to his children. And then when he's sitting in the back of the police car, hasn't even been told what he's been charged with, he tells his daughter, I don't think I'm ever coming back. Now, the question is, was that a threat to self-harm? Or was that an admission of guilt that he knew what they had just found on his land, even though nobody's told him yet? And if nobody's told him yet and he knew what they were going to find, kind of says he knew what was going on. And I loved the Social Security agent who, when John Pryor, who is Chad's defense attorney, says, well, was there any proof that Chad was involved in the Social Security fraud? He says, no. But if you are aware that a crime is being committed against the federal government, it is a crime not to report it. At which point, Pryor's like, no more questions. And it's just, dude, you walked right into that one. You set it up. You gave the witness the opportunity. And all I can think is, Pryor, you keep asking these stupid questions. You know, you're asking these stupid questions that are making your client look bad. Why are you doing this to make your client look bad? And all I can think is he's setting it up for an incompetent counsel appeal. He won't be doing the appeal because Chad is indigent and he's not an appeals attorney. So anyway, in better news, okay, I am really kind of irritated that there are people following Chad's trial, but not as many people as were following Lori's. And it comes down to the pretty blonde woman gets more attention than the toad-looking man. But he's, frankly, it was money, sex, and greed. There was power there. And the funny thing is, they were both lying to each other. He thought she was rich. She thought he was rich. Neither of them had any money. So it's sad that the children and their spouses, you know, Pryor admitted right up front that, yeah, Chad was having an affair with Lori. So it'll be interesting to see where it goes from here. And yes, they got married 12 days after Tammy died. In Hawaii, with nobody there. Last thing that we're going to cover today. In the fall, a couple years ago, I don't remember if it was 2019 or 2020, or even 2021, Dylan Rounds went missing. Dylan Rounds was, I don't know, he lived in an area in the Idaho-Nevada borders, and they said he was a farmer. That's desert. I don't know what you farm in the desert, but apparently there's something that needs a very high mineral content to grow that he was trying to farm, and he went missing. And his boots were found just a few yards away from the ramshackle shack and barn of a man named James Brenner. Well, apparently James Brenner is pleading guilty to the death of Dylan Rounds. And earlier this week, he took law enforcement out to where he disposed of Dylan Rounds' body. So luckily, Dylan Rounds' family now have his remains to bury. And James Brenner is pleading guilty and will most likely spend the rest of his life in an Idaho jail. We don't know for sure what was in the plea agreement. We just know that giving the family the body was part of it. So, Dylan, may you now have a place to rest in peace. And my condolences to your family, because being in your 20s, you were too young. And that, folks, is all I have for you this month. The end of the month, we'll see where Chad Daybell is with his trial. We'll be looking forward to Corey Richan's arraignment. We've done and dusted Jody Hildebrand and Ruby Franke. Probably, the big three, 48 hours, 2020 Dateline. Usually you don't know whether you can believe them or not, because like with Corey Richards, the 48 hours they did on her, did they not read any of the documents? Did they not read the charging documents at all? I mean, everything was her side and her side only. It was not even in any way, shape, or form balanced. But with the document dump that the prosecution did with Jody Hildebrand and Ruby Franke, 2020 did a really good job of covering what was there. They are the only place I know of that showed the photos unblurred of the children. And I had nightmares seeing what those two did to that young man's ankles. And, seeing the EMT on the body cam go, I thought I was unwrapping bandages. It was skin. This kid had gangrene on his ankles. The skin was sloughing off. And they were treating it with honey and cayenne pepper. That's a torture technique. Oh, there is some good news on the Ruby Franke and Jody Hildebrand front, though. The Board of Pardons and Parole just had a rule change that went into effect April 1st. Generally, you had your first parole hearing 6 months in. Well, the board was getting overloaded. So they now do an evaluation based on what type of prisoner you were and the type of crime as to whether or not you were going to get your 6-month parole hearing. If you do not qualify for that first 6-month parole hearing, they don't look at it for at least another year. So I am willing to bet, given what the document dump and the jailhouse calls we heard about Jody were, where she's blaming the kids, saying people don't believe that children are evil and that they did this, they brought this on themselves. They forced me to do this to them. I'm willing to bet that Jody does not get her 6-month parole hearing in August. Ruby, I think Ruby's a lot more manipulative than people give her credit for. Yes, I think she could have been brainwashed, but having done life coach training, life coaches give you permission to do what's already in your head. Jody may have planted ideas, but Ruby already believed her children were evil and deserved to be punished. So, yeah. Good on Sherry for recognizing that this is crazy and her parents were crazy And I am sorry that the rest of your family could not see the truth that you saw, but Sherry, more power to you. And I am so glad that Chad and Kevin are now seeing the truth. And it's going to take a lot of therapy. There was one news article that said that the other 4 children are being held in separate foster homes so that they won't feed off each other, but they can all get the therapy that they need. So here is hoping that the Frankie children get the help they need. Kevin is suing Jody. The first lawsuit is on behalf of the children to make sure that the children get any assets Jody had for their therapy. And then the second lawsuit is on behalf of Kevin so that he can claim any assets that the children do not get through the Victim Reparation Fund. Kevin is suing for alienation of affection and destroying his marriage, which you can do here in Utah. And apparently his divorce is also going through. So, I want to say that Ruby and Jody are done and dusted, but we'll keep track of it in August and see what happens there. And also in August is Lori Vallow Daybell's trial for shooting, the conspiracy to shoot Brandon Boudreaux, who is her niece's ex-husband, and the successful shooting of her husband, Charles Vallow. So that is Stitch and Crime. We've had the stitch, we've had the crime. I'll throw up the pictures of my failed whip goes from March. And I'll put up a picture of Pure Love from Cricklewood Crossing that I stitched for Stitchery Express. It's kind of fun just stitching models again. It's kind of cool. And anyway, folks, that is it for me tonight. Remember, pattern is just a place to start. Have fun with it. Make it your own. There's no such thing as mistakes. They're happy little accidents. Bye.